Hello everybody, this is Stephen Whitfield with Drilling Contractor, and with me right now is Leandro Luzone, Legal Advisor to IADC's Brazil chapter. Now, we're going to be speaking about ongoing litigation surrounding a royalty sharing law that the Brazilian government passed a while ago that is currently making its way through the Supreme Court. Now, as we're filming this video, Brazil's Supreme Court is making its ruling about this litigation. So we will be speaking about the circumstances surrounding the litigation and IADC's position as the Supreme Court makes its ruling. So, Leandro, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure to be here and assist with my comments.
All right, so let's start by going into the background. So this was legislation that was passed a while ago. You can sort of go into what it all entails, let our viewers know what it covers, but what does this cover?
Yeah, actually we are talking about the legislation that came in Brazil in 2013. So we are talking about a lawsuit that is under discussion 13 years already. And this was suspended by the judges of the court based on an injunction that they granted to the new law, and for this reason this new law was suspended. But we are talking about a law that changed the Brazilian royalties landscape, because based on the Brazilian constitution, the royalties must be awarded to the state or the cities that have the impact of the production. So we are talking about a right of compensation, and not just a right because I am part of the federal state. So this is the point. So the other non-producing state filed a new bill of law to try to change this understanding, and they passed this bill of law in the parliament against, in our view, the Constitution, because the Constitution says that this is a compensation, this is a right to be indemnified because the impact of the production happens in these specific states and these specific cities. Although the understanding is to have a right to share all these royalties revenues among the other states of the federal system in Brazil. So after this decision, several institutions filed amicus brief before these lawsuits that were involved in the matter, and a specific lawsuit that came from the Brazilian Rio de Janeiro state governor that filed a claim saying this law is unconstitutional and the impact in Rio de Janeiro state will be huge. So based on that, other associations in Brazil helped the producing states such as Rio and Espírito Santo, but mainly in Rio, to file claims, to file amicus brief in favor of the Brazilian Rio de Janeiro state government.
And IADC was one of those organizations that filed an amicus brief. So can you go into what IADC said in its amicus brief and why it filed the way it did?
Yeah, the understanding of IADC is similar of the other associations, because we are talking about an industry that in the majority has its production in Rio de Janeiro state, also in Espírito Santo, but we are talking about 80% of the oil production in Brazil in the Rio de Janeiro state. So if this state is impacted with this change in the law, the impact in the industry can come later, because we are talking about environmental impact, infrastructure impact, security impact, revenue for the state itself. Rio de Janeiro, based on some studies, can lose around 20 billion Brazilian reais per year if it loses the royalties. And not only the state, because we have also the participation of the cities. So cities such as Macaé, Rio das Ostras, Niterói, Maricá, all are cities that receive too many employees of this industry, suffer the impact, the increase of public demands, public service, etc. So they will be impacted. So imagine that, Steve, that if this law passes, Rio de Janeiro can lose this huge amount as revenue to face all these obligations it has as a state.
It sounds like you're saying that this could be devastating should this law be ruled constitutional. You talk about the environmental impact and all these other impacts. This sounds like this could be pretty earth-shattering for the two federal states that are the producers.
Yeah, some studies, Steve, says that these impacts can be more than 20 billion per year in case of the price of the barrel increase and also the production increase. So based on the fact that we are seeing in Brazil a big production nowadays with several FPSOs, several rigs in Brazil producing too much oil, mainly in Rio de Janeiro state. So this loss of revenue can be even higher. So the impact will be enormous for this producing state.
Well, and as Brazil continues, you see some of the developments that we're seeing in some of the areas in the pre-salt, equatorial, some of these other areas. Would a ruling like this, in your opinion, have a negative impact on the potential growth that we might see?
This type of ruling, Steve, in my view, creates a legal uncertainty in the market, a legal uncertainty in the industry. Why is that? Because it is ironic. Today, the same states that are in favor of this law will be the future producing states in Brazil. And the question is, will they want to change the law again? Because we are talking about equatorial margin.
Yeah.
And only there we have 2 or 3 producing states in the near future.
Yeah.
São Paulo state can be another near future producing state. Also, Santa Catarina, etc. So all this that is in favor of this legislation will change their position in the near future. This is the question, and this is ironic in my view.
Legal uncertainty is never a term you want to hear when you're talking about potentially developing frontier basins.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously, the ruling is being discussed right now as we're talking, but we'll see what happens, and it's really interesting to hear the context around this. So, Leandro, thank you for taking the time to sort of let us know about everything that's going on down there, and we appreciate it.
A pleasure, Steve. Any other issues that I may contribute, I'm in favor and available to participate on behalf of IADC.
I look forward to that. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you for visiting drillingcontractor.org.